The power rankings are up to date, and I maintain the Mets are at a crossroad.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and I'm now in my sixth full season here as a host of the Locked On Podcast Network. This year, I'm doing double duty. If you like what I'm doing, if you're an everyday Sully, you can double it up because I'm also the host of Locked On A's. So I'm doing Locked On A's and Locked On MLB, each of them 5 days a week. So that's 10 episodes a week. So you tell me when I'm getting sleep. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I am your pal Sully, but Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Hey, let's get on to the trivia question, which, by the way, I don't understand why a couple people got on me for this. I credited Mark Sugian, who is a listener, for an interesting fact I thought would make an interesting trivia question. And the question was, which Hall of Fame pitcher led up the final hits of the career of both Willie Mays and Orlando Cepeda? And a couple of you, including Mark Colaterra, pointed out that the answer was Raleigh Fingers, who led up Willie Mays' final hit in the 1973 World Series when Mays was with the Mets and Raleigh Fingers was with the A's. And then Cepeda's final hit was when he was a designated hitter for the Kansas City Royals. A couple of you pointed out, hey, that was already mentioned in the comments section by a listener. And yes, and if you listened closely, I pointed out that Mark Sugian, I credited him with it. I thought it was an interesting question. I don't assume everyone reads the comment section of the YouTube. I barely do. So I don't expect everyone to be reading that. So sorry, I took a suggestion. Not a lot of games played last night. A wild game between the Mets and the Nationals that went into extra innings, and nearly was won by the Nats on a line drive to right field that the Mets right fielder made a fabulous play, and Julio David Martinez hit a 3-run home run. The Mets pulled away and then hung on for dear life. The Rockies came from behind to beat the Brewers, and the Astros won, and they keep on winning. And that was all the action last night. So I guess, I had a Locked On A's that I posted, and I figured now's as good a time as any to talk about the Locked On Network Power Rankings, which are voted upon by the other Locked On hosts. And in today's, I'm going to go through 30-1 like I do every week, but remind you where teams were last week, what the records were, all that good stuff. But I am going to warn you, about midway through, I am bringing up the Mets. I've gotten a lot of grief from Met fans over the last few weeks because all through May and all through June, I said the Mets should sell. The Mets should sell. The Mets should sell because this is a seller's market. And yes, the Mets are contending, but there's too many teams, too few spots, and they could take advantage of a seller's market. And I have been getting bombarded with messages that are basically saying, you were wrong, repent. When I am wrong about things, I have a tendency to repent. However, that was a doorbell. However, I am not repenting about this, and I'll explain why. All right, let's go through this, bottom to top. Number 30, you have the Chicago White Sox, who are the worst team in baseball. They had yet another losing record, dropping 6 of their last 10 games. And this was, the White Sox are going to be facing a lot of questions come the trade deadline. They have Crochet, who is their ace pitcher, who could probably get them a lot. They got Luis Robert Jr., who is their big right-handed slugger, who could also probably get them a whole hell of a lot. I think Crochet is going to be the single biggest trade chip on the market. And so, again, seller's market, the White Sox could and should hold off for a top pitching prospect, because whatever team is getting him is getting an all-star ace caliber pitcher that could be the difference between winning a pennant or not. And so they should sit out saying, give us your number one prospect. Oh, okay. Well, the Orioles could use him. The Phillies could use him. The Dodgers could use him. The Guardians could use him. All these other teams, the Yankees could use him. All these teams at the top could use him, play him off of each other. And number 29, by the way, last week the White Sox were also at 30. At number 29, down a spot from last week, they were 28, are the Marlins, who were 5-5. Sad to see the team that was a playoff team and very exciting last year being an also-ran. They just DFA'd Tim Anderson. So much for that comeback. The Rockies are up a spot to 28, oddly after a week where they went 3-7, but they won last night against Milwaukee. Again, anything that is a remotely tradable asset of theirs is probably going to be moved, although I'll see what's going to happen with Diaz. At 27, after another dreadful week, the A's, who dropped 8 out of 10 games, stayed steady at number 27, and they are terrible. And they are going to probably find themselves in a situation where they're going to have to make some hard decisions, including involving Mason Miller, including involving several other, key players on the team who, are going to be good trade chips. But they're, as I said on yesterday's episode of Locked On A's, the A's are looking for more than just a good prospect. Their farm system is completely and totally barren. And so they need something, anything, to make up for the fact that they have no prospects on their team. On number 26, you got the Tigers. That's down 3 spots from last week. They've dropped 6 of their last 10 games. They're probably going to find a good taker for Flaherty. Going quickly, number 25, the Angels, who actually had a pretty good week. They won 7 of their last 10 games and are threatening the Rangers for 3rd place. They're up a spot. At number 24, we have the first of the National League contenders, nominal contenders. The Washington Nationals have dropped 7 of their last 10 games and are down 6 spots from last week. The Nationals look like they could be the first casualty of that huge scrum of teams that are nominal contenders, but not much more after that. At number 23, the Blue Jays have dropped 7 of their last 10 games. Last week, they were number 25. They're number 23 this week. Oddly, you drop 7 of 10, and you go up 2 spots. They're probably going to start trading away stars, too. It blows my mind. I'm a broken record about this. Why they haven't changed the manager, do something drastic, I don't know, and neither do you. The Cubs are at number 22. Again, falling like a rock. A lot of people thought this was going to be the only contending team in the National League Central, and here they are, probably going to finish in last place the way they've been going. They're dropped 3 spots from the last week. So at number 21, after a bad week, the Texas Rangers have dropped 6 out of their last 10 games. They were at 20 last week. Now they're at 21. At number 20, the Cincinnati Reds have dropped 6 of their last 10 games. Last week, they were number 22. Now they're at number 2. Again, on the cusp, on the periphery, and maybe in a situation where the Reds may have to start considering dealing some of their key assets. At number 19, you got the Giants, who are up 5 spots, oddly, but they had a good showing against the LA Dodgers as they're dangling around contention and maybe could find themselves in a situation where maybe, just maybe, they can climb back in it with one good week, which is a big topic that we're going to see moving on. At number 18, you got the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tough to figure out the Diamondbacks. They played very well against the A's. Who doesn't? They're still hanging around, splitting the last 10 games. They're down a spot from last week. At number 17, the Pirates, who are up 4 spots despite playing 5-5. Paul Skeens is the real deal. Probably is going to make the All-Star team and looks really good. The Rays are starting to climb back into it. They're staying steady at number 17 after winning 7 of their last 10 games. All right, which brings us to the absolute middle of the power rankings. And there's a reason I'm stopping at the middle of the power rankings. And that is quite simply because they're the team that could go one way or could go the other. And that's the big mystery of what to do with the Mets. All right, today we're going to be talking about booking.com. Now, look, if you're going to be making trips, if you're going to be making hotel stays, a lot of people like to travel this summer, and I made a big trip earlier this year. I traveled up and down all around upstate New York. I was in Buffalo where I saw the Buffalo Bisons. I was in Syracuse where I saw the Syracuse Mets, and then went all the way to Cooperstown, stayed in a different hotel every night. Stayed in a nice downtown hotel in Buffalo, nice safe place in Syracuse, and a beautiful bed and breakfast in Cooperstown. And how did I do it? I did it through booking.com. Yeah. With hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. From hotels that look over stadiums to wonderful bed and breakfasts right down the street from the Baseball Hall of Fame, Booking.com has so many choices across the United States for your summer travel this baseball season. The right stay may make you the fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Go all the way to Cooperstown, maybe not as a Hall of Famer, but as a guest at a hotel or bed and breakfast at Booking.com. Book today at Booking.com on the site or at the Booking.com app. Booking.com, what is it? It's Booking.yeah. All right, let's hear a little bit from our friends over at Game Time. Now, tell you what, I just told you a little bit about going to all those places. Well, I also had to get tickets, and I got tickets for games in Syracuse and in Buffalo. We'll go to games in Oakland and San Francisco and Los Angeles. I always use Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from the seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Now, they got things like zone deals. I know where I like to sit. I like to sit in the second deck, behind home plate, a little bit up the first base line. If I say, hey, give me the best deal in that zone, they'll do it. They have all-in prices, everything up front, no hidden fees, and you got seat views. We got a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. Take out the guesswork of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON in the MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices. Do you know what they are? I'll tell you exactly what they are. They're guaranteed. Hey, where do you go as your hub for all of your baseball takes, sports news, and news from all around baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, WNBA? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. We're at number 15. The New York Mets, the New York Metropolitans, at number 15. They've won 6 out of the last 10 games. They won a dramatic game last night. I said in May, they should be sellers. They should find a way to, to downgrade some of their what's the word I'm looking for? Unload. That's the word I'm looking for. Unload some of their big contracts. Put them in the position to be big buyers this offseason where, I wonder if there's a big fish out there like Juan Soto who would fit perfectly on their team and has shown he can handle the big stage. What loyalty does he have to the Yankees? He's only been there for months. The Mets have a bunch of contracts that are expiring. If in a seller's market, they can flip some of those contracts that are expiring and a couple of big, huge albatross-like contracts and flip them into just one above replacement level major leaguer, that would be a success. There are 9 teams squeezing into 2 spots, which means 7 of them will be on the outside looking in. And the Mets have bigger fish to fry. There's some teams like the D-backs, some teams like the Reds, some teams like the Pirates who see they don't have a gigantic window of opportunity, who should be going for it big time. But the Mets are trying to put together the next great New York champion. The city of New York is drooling for a champion that doesn't play in the MLS. And they haven't had one since 2012. If you're a Met fan, you haven't seen one since 86. But the next I'm sorry. I know MLS is getting bigger. I know MLS's popularity is growing. There's not a single player in the MLS who wouldn't jump ship in 3-2-1 to play for AC Milan, Real Madrid, Manchester United, go to the Premier League. Everyone would jump ship to there. So that's one reason why I'm saying, hey, it's great that the soccer is gaining popularity here, but let's not kid ourselves that it's a major league. I'm sorry if the reality hurts with that. But also the fact of the matter is the deep-rooted fandom of Jets, Giants, Islanders, Devils, Rangers, Knicks, Nets, Mets, Yankees, all of those teams, they're all waiting for a title that they haven't had in literally decades. Or what? And the most recent one of the Giants, 2012. The next one of those teams who wins will be the most beloved team in a generation. New York hasn't seen a championship drought like this since the beginning of the 20th century. And the Mets are trying to build that. And they did that. They brought in young players last year, and I think they could do it again this year and build the team up from within. They have a hard time looking. There are a lot of teams being squeezed into 2 spots. And if you get a chance to put yourself in a position to be the biggest buyers of baseball next year, I say you do it. Anyone with any tradable assets have a massive advantage during this trade deadline with all these teams fighting for it. You'd be the one going against the stream. But the Mets had the best June in all of the National League. The Mets were unstoppable. The Mets climbed up. Yeah, where did the Mets climb up to? At the beginning of June, they were on the outside. They did not have a winning record, and they were on the outside looking into the playoffs. Now we're at the end of June. We're into July. They still don't have a winning record, and they're still on the outside looking into the playoffs. So I'm sorry if this is a horrifying point of view to have, but the fact of the matter is they had a spectacular June and basically are at the same place. Yes, they've gained some games, but they're still on the outside looking in. Yes, I know they've made some progress, but what if they don't have a spectacular July? What if another team plays better than the Mets in July? They have to make this decision soon. They have to make the decision whether they're going to be buyers or sellers very soon, because after July, you can't pull off these deals because of the waiver blocks. They have 4 weeks to say, are we going to go for it or not? Last year we saw the Angels go for it, and it cost them so much when they could have gotten something for Shohei Ohtani. So the fact of the matter is the Mets are at literally the middle of the power rankings. They're 15 out of 30. 500 on the outside looking in with tradable assets. I'm not saying they have great tradable assets. They had better ones last year, but they could shed big contracts if they decide to say, hey, we're in a seller's market. Let's get rid of some of these contracts. Let's go forward. I think the only way I'm wrong is if they make the playoffs. Anything short of that, and this is a potentially wasted opportunity. We come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the power rankings. Hey, do you know what Prize Picks is? You should, because Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of America. And they've got over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's you against the numbers. You get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Now, you have the opportunity to make 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has you covered every week. From lowering select players' stats projections on Tuesday to help your lineup hit, or getting entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more. Pick less on Prize Picks. Do you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's that easy. This is a reminder that Locked On has started the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming app on YouTube, and it's now available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. All right, let's do rapid fire as we wrap up the power rankings here, and I'll find out who the hell is at the door. The Astros won 9 out of 10 games and are climbing back into it. And the fact that Seattle has also been slumping makes me think, the Astros are probably going to win the division, but when all is said and done, with about half the season left. The Red Sox have looked very good recently. They've won 6 out of their last 10 games, and they're at number 13. The Cardinals are steady at number 12. They're still a playoff team right now, winning 7 of their last 10 games. The Royals have split their last 10 games. They're at number 11, just the same place they were last week. Bobby Witt Jr. is still the MVP candidate of that team, and the Royals are in the final wildcard spot in the American League. The Padres are catching fire. Another reason why Mets should be concerned are the Padres and the Cardinals are starting to play better and fortify their wild card spot. And the Padres won 8 of their last 10 games. They're number 10, up 4 spots from last week. At number 9, holding steady at number 9, are the Minnesota Twins. They won 6 out of their last 10 games, and so their pitching has looked pretty darn good. The Braves, despite all their injuries, are holding at number 8. They've split their last 10 games and look pretty good so far. At number 7, the Mariners, who were at number 7 last week, but the Mariners have been slumping, dropping 7 of their last 10 games, and suddenly looking quite vulnerable. And the Astros can smell blood in the water. Speaking of blood in the water, suddenly the Yankees, who looked invincible a couple weeks ago, have dropped 7 of their last 10 games, keep losing series, and despite having Aaron Judge seeming to be able to hit home runs at will, they're down 5 spots. Last week they were number 2, and they're down 4 spots. Last week they were number 2. Now they're at number 6. At number 5, up a spot from last week, are the Milwaukee Brewers, looking more and more like the defending champs. Want to take this seriously. The Dodgers hold steady at number 4, and they should be calling the White Sox about crochet every hour on the hour. They've won 6 out of their last 10 games. And number 3, up a couple of spots from last week, are the Cleveland Guardians. Now, they've won 6 of their last 10 games and are looking more and more like the real deal, especially if they get ironically, a starting pitcher. All these years they had great starting pitching and couldn't hit. Now they can hit. They just need a couple of decent pitchers. At number 2, up a spot, are the Baltimore Orioles. Even though they've dropped 6 of their last 10 games, they still look solid. And at number 1, despite the injuries that they've been experiencing, including to Bryce Harper, are the Philadelphia Phillies, winning 6 out of their last 10 games. So, in review, you have Phillies at number 1, Orioles, Guardians, Dodgers, Brewers, Yankees, Mariners, Braves, Twins, and Padres. At number 11, Royals, Cardinals, Red Sox, Astros, Mets, Rays, Pirates, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Reds. And 21, Rangers, Cubs, Blue Jays, Nats, Angels, Tigers, A's, Rockies, and the Marlins and the White Sox. Those are your power rankings. And here is the trivia question, which I got from an A's broadcast, so I hope no one's mad at me about that. Who hit the first ever Oakland A's home run in their history? They just got their 9,000th home run. Not this year. That would be a record. The 9,000th home run was just recently hit. Who hit number 1 in Oakland history? Put the answer right down there. And follow us at Locked On MLB on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Making an ultimatum for the Mets and wondering who's at the door. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.